Hey guys, I finally have everything I need to convert my rear axle, my Sterling 10.5 to 8x6.5 so I can put the steel wheels on it like we did on the front on the last episode on the Ultimate Crew Cab. So let's go dig into it. Well guys, here's what I have been waiting on. This is my 43/64 end mill, 4 flute end mill there that I've been waiting on to drill those holes, because this is the size I need for the holes for the new studs in our hub. So the last one I ordered was the wrong size, so was ordering that right size, and that's like an oddball thing. And I think the reason it took so long to get here is I actually had to make the end mill. I don't know if they did or not, but that's what it seems like. But luckily enough, I got the right size this time. I did drill a hole in this rotor. I'm not using this rotor, so I just use it as a test bed. Machined a hole in this rotor, and that stud there pressed in there just perfect. The press fit on that was just went in just hard enough that I was happy with how hard it pressed in, but not hard enough that it's really hard to get put in there, basically. So it was just perfect. It felt like a factory hole with a factory stud, you know, that kind of thing. So I was real happy with that. First thing I had to do before we machine the hubs right here is I'm going to weld outside of the hole, the existing hole, because I'm not going to be able to machine all of it out. There's going to be a little bit left when I machine the new bolt pattern. So I'm just welding up part of the hole just so we have a straight hole all the way through there, and that part of that hole is not exposed there to give the stud less to grab onto, basically. So just a little bit of welding I have to do on the hubs. We're gonna get that done, and then we'll start machining. On the hubs, I am using some like anti-spatter spray, or what do they call it? Anti-spatter, that's right. Okay, so that keeps your weld beads and everything from sticking to stuff. Since we have machined surfaces on these hubs, the beads from welding like to stick to it. So to keep it from sticking to the bearing surfaces and the machined spot where the wheel sits on, I'm going to spray that down. So hopefully that will keep us from having to do any cleanup on the machine surfaces, and they can remain perfect. So I'm going to get after welding those parts, and then we'll be machining here pretty quick. All right, I have a hub set up here on the mill. You can see there where I welded just part of the hole that's going to be machined out. I have it set up right now to find the center. I got my edge finder in here. I'm going to find the edge of the this inside surface of the hub there where it's machined. So I'll get a nice, good center reference of the part there, and I'll zero out my DRO so we can enter the pattern. Just to go over what I'm working with here, we got, I'm going to zero these out once I find center, and then I'll go over here to pattern, and then circle pattern, and then it's already set up from when I was doing some rotors, but have a eight holes in the pattern, obviously, and the center is going to be 0 because I'm going to zero out the DRO so it knows where to start, and then the radius is half of 6.5, which is our bolt pattern, and then we'll get going. So first step is to zero this out. Now I know if you guys are interested in doing something like this on your own, you may not have this set up. You know, I did machine on the hub, so it required a lathe, and then I'm machining the hubs here for the rear end with the mill and the DRO. Some of you may not have a lathe and mill, or you might have a mill but don't have a DRO, because those are kind of not every mill has a DRO. So I understand that this might be a little more advanced than a lot of you guys will be able to do at home, but if you don't have these tools, you might be able to take it to like a job or machine shop and have them do it for, you know, not very much. You know, it's gonna cost more, obviously, but it's cheaper than buying all this equipment here because this stuff's quite expensive. You know, anyway, that's what I'm saying is I know this is kind of might seem a little advanced, but there are ways around it, especially if you have just a jobber machine shop, a smaller machine shop that's not like a full production machine shop that does one-off stuff for people. You know, they could get this done for you, no problem. But anyway, we're going to get starting on this hub, and hopefully it turns out. And then we'll see once we get done if we can fit it on a wheel. All right, first step is going to be edge finding and getting center of the part. I have my edge finder in here, which is basically just has this little piece right here that's like held on with a spring. And you go over to the edge, and when you get to the edge, it kicks out a little bit. And then I'll zero the DRO, then go to the other side, do the same thing, and then find this measurement, and then you divide by 2. And then I go to the center, what that measurement is, and then zero out the DRO, and then we have center. So kind of an operation, but it works pretty good. You can see there the thing's wobbling. It's getting close. There, it kicked out. So we go over here, 0 or X. Whoop, I don't have it set back. Let's see. There we go. Go over here and do the other side. It kicks out. So we have 30970. We divide that by 2, and then we go to the center, whatever that measurement is, and that's 0. All right, I have everything all set up on 0, going off the hub here. So we're in perfect center right now, theoretically anyway. And I've already got the program in the DRO here for the bolt pattern. Let's see, you go to view here, you can see the circle bolt pattern there, and we're getting ready to drill this hole right here. And since this is an 8x6.5 bolt pattern, we are a 3 1/4 inches. We have to go 3 1/4 inches over to get to this hole. So I just wanted to show you that. And then basically I'm going to move over here, drill this hole, and then go to next hole like that, and it'll tell me to move to a different coordinate. And then I go to next hole, and you know, etc., etc. So I'm going to get after that and see if I can get this stuff machined out. I did find this is a solid carbide end mill. I'm not sure if this is hardened or some form of pretty hard steel. I'm guessing it's you know, hardened at some form, but high-speed steel could not cut this. I didn't have much luck with high-speed steel at all. So solid carbide is what I have found is the best cutting for this with a cutting lubricant. It seemed to cut really hard. So if you're wanting to do this yourself, you might consider getting a either carbide drill bit or a carbide end mill. Just from my experience, that was what provided the best cutting solutions for me. But I'm going to get after this and see if I can get this hub knocked out and get this bolt pattern changed up. All right, guys, first step is going to be get this mill lined up to the first hole. Like I said, 3 1/4. We're creeping up on it there. Very touchy. Well, that's good. That means it's precise. And looks like we are pretty aligned. Looks like we're off a little bit. Okay, take 2. I have it lined up here. Is just the orientation of the hub there. I didn't have that twisted just right. Not a big deal. I just wanted to make sure the center line of the new bolt pattern is the center line of the old bolt pattern, just so it's on the center of that boss down there. But like I said, it's not a big deal because you're on a circle. Even, you know, any rotation, it's not going to matter for the alignment of the studs. It's more just the alignment of the hole, the existing hole there. Just being a little picky there, but I got it lined up a lot better. I had to redo everything, but have it all set up now and spot on the first hole. So I'm going to drill a couple holes to show you guys, and I'll just knock the rest of it out. All right, first one's done. Drilling the hole is actually the easy part. It's setting everything up that is the tricky part, I think. First one's done. That one went really good. It cut really well. So we'll go ahead and go to the next hole, unlock our table, and we'll start moving. Like I mentioned in the last episode, when I did a brake rotor with this, my mill is not new by any means. I think it was made in 1974, and my screws have a little bit of play in them, but I have rebuilt the table, so hopefully the gibs and everything is all in my my ways of the table is all still pretty accurate, and of course when you lock it all down it should be pretty good. My x-axis is nicer than my y. Little tiny movements. There we go. We're zeroed out. Let's hit the second hole. Make sure we're lined up good. Looks good to me. Let me get you guys in here where you can see it a little bit better. Hopefully. And that's that. I'm going to start the process on the rest of the holes there. I think we have 6 left to do. Shouldn't take too long. Drilled. It went fantastic, no problems at all, and the thing cut great. And I think hopefully all the holes are lined up. One thing I like to do to check my work is to go to the next hole, which will be the one that we started with, and just see how you ended up on the final bolt pattern to make sure nothing moved. We'll get everything back at 0. Moved on me a little bit. It always does when I hit the lock. There we go. We'll get the Y line back up. Helps if I go the right way. Come on. Come on. Now, in theory, this should just slide right in the hole. Ooh, that's perfect. All right, that makes me happy. All right, next step is going to be to get this off the mill, clean it all up, clean the burret and everything, and then slide some studs in there and see how they fit on the wheel. All right, I got the hub right here all cleaned up, and I got these studs in there. Those went really nice and easy. Not too tight, not too loose, basically. Went right in like you would expect, so that is good. We got our wheel here. And it went on. It might, no. Let me get you guys in here. Looks pretty good. If you remember when I machined these hubs, I had to machine the flange down here down, and I tried to get it very close to the inside diameter of this wheel here, so that if my bolt pattern was off in any way, it would become apparent, because that wheel is going to be trying to register on the hub as well as the studs. But it looks like we're really good. I'm looking at the space around the studs here and making sure it's all uniform and the same. And it looks like we got away with it. So really happy with that result. The next step's going to be I got backing plates and stuff, and I got new dust shields. I'm going to put all that together so we can try these hubs out on the axle. But the only next step will be make sure the brakes clear these wheels, but since they clear on the front barely, just a little bit of nick where we got to clean up, I think we'll have no problem on the rears clearing the brakes. But we'll have to see. So I'm going to get after doing all that stuff, and we'll meet back at the axle when we start assembly. All right, guys, I have both of the hubs here all ready to go. I already have the races installed. The bearing races are sometimes called bearing cups. I have those installed. Now all to do is put the bearings in and the inner seals. So that is the wheel seal there. I'll put those in and then install them on the hub. On the spindle. Once we get them on the spindle, we'll put the outer bearing in and tighten them up. I always, every time I put a rear axle together, I always have to say this, because not every time, sometimes when I take axles apart, you find these bearings packed with grease. You don't have to pack these full floater axles with grease, because they are lubricated by the gear oil in the rear end. The gear oil comes all the way out the end, and then these are lubricated with the gear oil. So you don't have to pack them with grease. If I can save one truck that I ever work on that doesn't have grease all packed in these hubs here, it'll be worth it. So I know most of you guys don't pack them with grease, so don't get offended. If you do, it's no big deal. Just learn that you don't have to next time. So on the rear end, I already have the backing plates installed and the caliper brackets. And I'm going to get the hubs, all the bearings in, and the seals pushed in, and then the hubs installed. So I'm going to get after it. There we go, got the hubs installed, and I went ahead and installed the axle shafts. And I used ARP bolts and washers on the axle flanges just because I think they look cool, and I like the way they look. So they're way overkill for this. The factory bolts are plenty strong for this, but I love that ARP bolt look there, just to be a little fancy, if you will. If you notice, I am missing the drum brake setup here for the emergency brake. There's like drum shoes here that go under the rotor. Has a provision for the parking brake. I'm missing all that stuff. One, because I don't have new parts for that, and the old ones were destroyed when I removed them to change the backing plate. I was going to leave the old ones in there in case I wanted to set up that parking brake, but since I didn't have the new parts, I elected to leave them out. I think I'm going to try to do something different with the parking brake. I'm not sure yet. If I do end up going back to a cable style drum brake parking brake, I'll have to put that stuff back in, but that's minor in the grand scheme of things. It's not going to prevent us from moving forward at all. So one thing, when I was putting it together, if you noticed, I was struggling on this side a little bit with the spindle nut on these 10.5s. The driver's side spindle nut is left-hand thread, so that screwed me up because the axle is flipped around from the frame, and I was thinking I had it correct, but this is the passenger side because it's backwards from the frame. So I had it, that side over there is the driver's side, so that's the left-hand nut. I had the wrong one over here, but once I figured it out, it all went together pretty well. They are pretty tight when I torqued them to spec. The torque spec was 70 foot-pounds, and then back it off 90 degrees, and then torque it 20 extra foot-pounds to set the preload. And it's pretty tight, but you'll generally have that with new bearings and seals. The bearings kind of have to seat in. Generally, if you set them up by the actual torque it takes, the rotating torque. There's different specs for new bearings versus old bearings. Generally, with like pinions, you set up that way. So it is a little tight once I get some wheels on here. If I don't like it, I can always pop the axles out and change it. But for now, we're going to leave it alone. And I have to yank the old axle out, and then I'm going to start putting this axle in. Alright, I got the axle installed there on the leaf springs. My jack didn't want to roll, so that made it a little bit harder. I am going to resist the urge to bolt on the wheels and tires for now. I'm going to work on the brakes. We have to convert the rotors to 8x6.5 as well. So we're going away from the frame for now and the axle, and we're going back to the mill. And it's going to be basically the same procedure as the hubs, although with this don't have to be near as precise because you're just slotting a hole basically. Not going to do any welding or anything like that. Just drill a new hole for the 8x6.5 pattern and leaving the old ones. Some people have done it with a drill bit. If you use a 3/4 drill bit, I think it opens it up enough. But since I have the ability to just go ahead with a hole right there in the exact bolt pattern, that's what I'm going to do. So going to get going on the rotors so I can assemble all the brakes before I put the wheels and tires on, and I'm going to get after it. All right, well, I have the one side assembled. I have the new machined rotor that we just machined in there, and I got a caliper installed with the brake pad, so the caliper is where it needs to be. And it's pretty tight, as I said, but it does clear. We have lots of room on the rear, so really happy with that. So gonna get going on the other side and finish up a few finishing touches, and then we'll put the tires on the wheels, and we'll get this thing back on the ground. Well, I got the tires mounted on the wheels, and I was getting ready to put this side on and get it on the ground. But I was having trouble with one of the lug nuts, and I couldn't figure out the problem. And it just go on there and spin and spin and spin. The threads looked fine. I couldn't find anything wrong with the threads. I even put a tap on there to try to clean the threads up, and I couldn't even get the tap to screw on. And I'm like, what's the deal? What's the holdup? And turns out I have one left-hand thread in the hub. So apparently someone put a left-hand thread stud in the box, but luckily you have to buy them in boxes of 10, so I have spares. But I have to take all this back apart and get that stud out of there and put another one in it. I just couldn't believe that there was a left-hand thread stud on there. But anyway, I guess I'll take this back apart, change out that stud, and then we'll put the tires on. Alright guys, with all the setbacks we had with the 8x6.5 conversion on these Super Duty axles, I am excited to bring to you guys the completed product there. We have the front and the rears all done. Even with all the delays we had, it didn't take me too long, just mainly waiting on shipping and stuff and lost in transit and all that kind of stuff. But I am happy to have this thing back on 4 tires. For one, I can move it around easier again. And 2, it just looks great. And if you notice, I have the engine installed and started doing a little few odds and ends things. Like I got the fuel system installed, drive shaft. I got the fuel tank kind of figured out, and got brake lines, and started working on all that kind of piddly stuff that takes forever on a project. But this episode is about the rear end, and I think it turned out really nice. Like I said, I was kind of worried about the stubby hub on this 10.5 looking kind of goofy. You know, the old ones would have been sticking out like this, but I think that looks pretty good. And it actually, I kind of prefer this look because it's just cleaner and, you know, kind of looks like it's put together pretty good. So real happy with that. The clearance on the rears is great. We don't have any clearance issues, but we do have a few clearance issues on the front, like I mentioned in the first episode on this. If you're watching this and you missed the front axle where we did the Dana 60 up here, the conversion on it, I'll link that in the description below. I did that video before this one. And yeah, let me know down in the comments, guys, how you think this turned out. Do you like the new wheels? I know I asked you that on the last video, and overwhelmingly everyone said they love these steel wheels over the methods. And I agree. This thing is going to look awesome when it's all put together. I can't wait when we get the body back from paint. We're going to be setting this thing on here and getting a look at just how this thing's going to look. You don't want to miss that. Hit subscribe so you can see that when I post that video. Give me a thumbs up if you like this truck and you like this project. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.